All right, we're going to go ahead and make the curved track for the train project. And later we'll be making a straight track, but that'll be a different tutorial. So for the curved track, you're going to want to go into a standard, an Inventor file, standard IPT for a part file. And you're going to want to go into Sketch, which I've already opened up a Sketch. Once you're in Sketch, we're going to start with a rectangle. And it's going to look something like that. And I'm going to put another rectangle right inside of it, right about there. And then we're going to dimension this thing. And it's going to be, let's make it 1 inch tall. And let's make it 3.4 inches wide. Now this groove right here is going to be 1/4 inch deep. And it's going to be 0.4 from that line to that line. That's the spacing off the wall. And we want it to be a total width of 0.35. Okay. Now I do need to make a groove over here and grooves on the bottom, because wooden tracks, they have grooves on the top, the curved pieces, so and then you can flip it over and they have grooves on the bottom, so what was a left-hand turn now becomes a right-hand turn when you flip it over. But instead of having to do that rectangle 4 different times, I'm going to show you how to use rectangular pattern, which is this feature right here. So click rectangular pattern. The geometry that we want to pattern was this little rectangle, so I'm going to click there and there and there, and ideally that top one. Come on, I'm just going to do that. That's selected it. Okay, by highlighting it, it's selected those areas. So now I've got everything, and I'm going to pattern it one direction. I'm going to pattern it down. So I click here, and it actually patterned up, so I have to flip the direction. And you can see it goes too far down because I've got to go in a full inch. Well, it was 1/4 of an inch in height, so I actually need to subtract that 1/4 inch off of this inch, which leaves me with 0.75, and it puts it right where I want it. And then I'm going to have it go the other direction also. And remember, the total width of this thing was 3.4, but it's spaced 0.4 off the side, and it's 0.35 wide. So we have to take this 0.75 that we have here and subtract it off of the 3.4, and that's going to leave us with something like 2.65, I believe. Oh, let's see, that's not enough. Let's go 2.3. Is that a right amount? Nope. 2.25. Okay, and you'll see that the 0.4 spacing over here is exactly the same as the 0.4 spacing over here, and that's because it's pushing it over this way 2 1/4 inches to get it right where we want it. Okay, and I'm just going to hit OK at this point. So now I've got the grooves that I'm going to make. So I'm going to go ahead and take this thing, and I'm going to revolve it. So I'm going to go to 3D model. Oh, hold on. We want to go back to that sketch. So let's go back into that sketch real quick. So I'm going to right click on this sketch. It says I'm still in sketch. Oh, there it is. Sketch is up on the top now. So click on that sketch, and we need to actually put a line. Now this is going to be an axis, this line that I make. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm going to throw a vertical line over here. And it doesn't matter how long it is, but I do want it to be vertical, and you can see that little symbol that's showing up. It's telling me that it is vertical. And it doesn't matter how long it is. It could be an inch or it could be 1,000,000 miles. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is that the distance from this edge to this line is 15 inches. And we'll hit OK, and that pushed that line away. Now we're ready to revolve. So 3D model, revolve. Now remember, when you do a revolve, you have two things. You have a profile that you're going to revolve and an axis that you're going to revolve around. So my profile is going to be this area. It's the rectangle minus the 4 little grooves, because I don't want those. And the axis is going to be this thing right here. And what you'll see is it does a preview of a full revolve. Well, I don't want the full revolve because that would be cheating. That would be the entire track already. So we're going to change it to angle. And we're going to put in an angle of 45 degrees. And so it's going to make me a segment, just like you would see in wooden train set. There's a segment of a train piece right there. Okay. And if we look at it from the side, it looks just like a wooden train piece would. Okay, so let's look at the top view, and I'm going to orient it. Okay, I'm going to make the groove on the top. This line is straight, so that's easy to work with. So let's put a sketch right on here. And I'm going to zoom in a little. And I'm going to do a rectangle, and it's going to go something like that. And then I'm going to use a 3-point arc. And I'm going to take that arc from this top left corner to the top right corner. I'm going to pull it out so it looks something like that. Now we need to plug in our dimensions. The total width of this thing, so from this line over to this line, is going to be 0.65. We'll say enter. And I want to make sure, well, let's go ahead and let's put in a diameter of this arc right here. And I want that to be 0.75. Okay. And we're going to put a little, I'm going to use the trim feature. I'm going to trim off this edge, this line right here, because I don't need that. And we're going to throw a fillet in from the arc down to this edge, and you'll see that rounds that corner off. And we're going to put a fillet from here to here also. Okay, now I'm going to go adjust those fillets. I'm going to go to dimension. I'm going to click on there, and I actually want it to be 3/16 of an inch. So if you remember 3/16, you can type in the fraction, or you can just go straight with the decimal. So when I do this one, I might just type in, it's not really 0.188, it's really 0.1875. And so it's saying that it can't change that because when these were built, they were built to be symmetrical to one another. So it already is the same dimension as that other one. So that's fine. I'll leave it. Now I'm going to tilt this thing so I have a view of one of the edges. And I'm going to do a dimension from the center point to this outside edge. And I want to make sure that that is going to be 1.7 because the entire thing, if you remember, was 3.4 inches wide. So if I tell that dimension to be 1.7, then I know it's going to be centered. Now did you see how that just tilted? Okay, so I've got this little straight piece right down here and this big straight piece right up here, and I want them to be the same. So I'm going to go up to this equal constraint right here. And I'm going to tell that little guy and this bigger guy to be the same. And that keeps it symmetrical. Okay? Now I also want to do a dimension. I want to tell this center point right here to be exactly 1 inch off of this edge right there. So I'm going to click on both of those and say 1 inch. And now what happens, the whole thing is turned blue. And if you look down in the bottom right, you'll see it says fully constrained. There is no more constraints that we could put onto this sketch. It is stuck right where it is. There's no more flexibility. So it's done. So what we're going to do is go to 3D model. We're going to say extrude. And we're going to select that. I'm going to tilt it to make sure we're going the right way because sometimes it'll come at us, which it's doing. It was going to extrude up toward us. I don't want that. I want it to extrude back down. And it is 1 inch, just like I want it to be. So we'll say OK. And now we have a knob on that one side. Okay. So now we're going to do the same thing down at this bottom, except we're going to cut material. And that happens a little differently. So we're going to go to Create Sketch and put a sketch on this face. Now, our standard rectangle is a 2-point rectangle which only goes horizontal and vertical. So we're actually going to have to use what's called a 3-point rectangle. And I'm going to click once right about there. And then you see I get to choose where the next point's going to be. So I'm going to click right over here. And I'm going to pull it out. Now it is perpendicular to that edge. And now we can go to the arc. And click. And click. And pull it out also. And now we just need to plug in a lot of our dimensions. So from here to the end, just like we did on the other side, will be 1 inch. The diameter of this guy is going to be 0.75. And the total width of this is going to be 0.65. We need to make sure the entire thing is centered, so I'm going to tilt it so I can see one of the edges. And I'm going to say from that center point to an outside edge. Ooh, let's see if we can get the dimension we actually want here. That's tricky. That's not the way we want it. Okay. We're going to have to do that one slightly differently. We'll deal with that in a second. So go ahead and close that dimension. I'm going to go ahead and say trim and click that. And now we're going to go back to our fillet. And let's make sure we fill it that to there. And we can go ahead and put in 0.1875. Remember, that is the 3/16. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in right there to there. I think it might be causing an error because I didn't originally have the 0.1875. Oh, there it is. It went. But to get that second one, or the one I did first, I'm going to have to go back to it and change it to 0.1875. That's our 3/16 dimension that we used. Okay. Now the only thing we don't have is that this is centered. And probably our easiest way to do this at this point is let's just tell it this center point to this edge right here. Well, it doesn't seem to want to do that either. Alright, we're going to get creative here. Bear with me. We're going to tell this line and this outside edge, okay, halfway would be 1.7, but this is 0.65 wide. So we have to subtract off the half of the 0.65, which is 0.325. So what we really want is 1.7 minus 0.325, and we can put that calculation in there, and when we hit OK, it's going to go ahead and calculate for us. And now it did an adjustment. Now you see that this little straightaway is smaller than this straightaway, so we're going to go up to the equal constraint, and we're going to say I want that to be equal with that. And it turned blue, which means it is totally locked into place. And if I look right at it, that looks good. So we're going to go to 3D model, extrude. The profile we want to select is this guy. It defaulted to join, which means add material. We don't want that. We want to say cut material. And I'm just going to say all. And OK. And there is your wooden curved piece. Go ahead and choose whatever color you like and save it into your file.